We're at episode 76. We're joined by two of my co-hosts. Gary Sleepy Boy Johnson will be on eventually. Here with two of my esteemed co-hosts, Marissa Tigney herself, welcome back, and Ben Holloway. And we also have a special guest, Peyton Vince from the We Like Sports podcast. How are y'all doing today?
Amazing.
It's a great
Absolutely
day.
Amazing.
It's a great day. Ben Tar Heels fan, how you doing?
Hey, it was better last March, that's for sure.
Yeah. I got my broom. I got my broom, man. We swept y'all. I feel good. Vince, how you doing?
Honestly, with living in Ohio, life isn't that great, I guess. Just because it's snowing right now, it's March. February was more like March, and it was 60 degrees at times, and now it's snowing, and it's been snowing the last couple of days. So I'm sick of it. I want to end up getting out of here at times, but I'm just a crazy Clevelander that ends up just sticking around. But that's life. And can't control.
I was gonna ask where in Ohio, but yeah, it's cold. It doesn't do any service. It doesn't really help being up here in Seattle. It's just been cold and snowy, and the mountains have just been frosted all the way. But it's all good. But let's get right to it. So tonight we're going to be discussing probably some of the greatest conference championship basketball that I've seen in a very long time. The NCAA tournament, the snubs. I'm feeling a type of way, but my Blue Devils getting a fifth seed. But we'll talk about that. Huge NFL trade for the number one pick in the draft. And, of course, we will talk about the Lakers and as well as Final Four predictions, shall we? So, Marissa, man, conference championship week. It has probably been some of the best conference championship basketball that I've seen in a very, very, very long time. What are just some of your high-level thoughts? Feel free to get right at it.
Well, I mean, just one, my boys didn't live up to the challenge during the season. They did win the first round of the NIT versus Toledo, so go blue anyway. A little bit bitter that they didn't do what they were supposed to do this season, but we saw a lot of teams come through, and I just want to welcome officially Kennesaw State to the big dance. First time ever in school history that the Owls are dancing when they pulled off the win against Linscomb in the Atlantic Sun tournament. So it's quite impressive with them, and I'm glad that you always get that Cinderella that can just go in there and just make an impact into the tournament itself. I want to stick with the Big Ten for a hot second because obviously I'm a Big Ten fan. My team is from the Big Ten, and looking at Purdue that pulled out not only the regular season championship, but the tournament championship. And they are seeded number one. I'm going to keep a close eye on them. I believe wholeheartedly, and I said it on my show as well as other platforms, and I will say it on this platform, Purdue will be the first number one seed gone quickly. They remind me of 2 years ago of Iowa, when they only had literally 1 to 2 key players. That was Luka Garza and Jordan Bohannon. They didn't have a complete team. And Iowa was gone quickly. Unfortunately, Purdue, if they can get their point guards to shoot instead of being at 40% like they were in the tournament, they could go far in this tournament. But a lot of the weight is on Zach Edey right now. Being over 7 feet tall right there and pretty much can dominate in the paint and pretty much take on all defenders that are there. That's a great advantage. But how much of that pressure is going to be put on Purdue if the guards are not doing what they're supposed to do, which is having that hot hand when needed? The Big Ten, I don't see a lot of the teams coming out, at least a maximum of going to the 32. I have Michigan State making a little mini possible run, but if they do make a possible run and get past USC, you're going to face a Shaka Smart, very tough Marquette. And so that's where it's going to stop there. But as far as the Big Ten, and again, I'm a devoted Big Ten fan myself. I don't see our conference going any further than the 32, possibly the 16.
Okay. Purdue, Ben and Gary, what's up, buddy? How you doing? Gary the Legend Johnson himself.
What up, Gary?
I see you representing some Iona.
Yes. Go Gales.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm excited about that matchup coming up too with them and UConn. I'll let Gary talk about that one because I'm excited about that.
definitely. We're going to get right to that. And Ben, like this. Oh man, Purdue. There's just so many different things I want to say about Purdue, but I think Marissa pretty much said everything that I want to say. And Ben, first, how are you feeling about the Blue Devils ACC champs? And but how are you feeling as a UNC fan? But how are you feeling?
Yeah,
That's fine.
it took you about 30 seconds to get that question out. You could have been like, "We won the ACC champs. You guys didn't make the tournament. You suck."
Yeah, in your face.
Instead, anyways, I did have Duke written down because I being a Tar Heels fan, it does not, it's not good, nice for me to talk nice about Duke, but reality is reality. 12-2 their last 14 games, 9 straight wins, including ACC tournament. So they're playing great at the right time. If I may touch on a couple other conference championships, or Jeff, did you want to respond?
All I'm just going to say about Duke, and then this will be the last thing I'll say about this Duke team. With this starting lineup, they're 18-1 together. The current starting lineup, 18-1. Okay, this is not the Duke team earlier. I don't even have them win the championship, but I'm just saying. A lot of special things happen in Durham, but go ahead.
Duke is playing good ball at the right time. That's all.
Yes, they are.
That.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Marissa. Thank you so much. But Ben, go ahead. Our lovely
So I'm going to go to the WCC next, West Coast Conference. St. Mary's actually finished ahead of Gonzaga by tiebreakers in the regular season. They faced off in the West Coast Conference Championship, and it was a beatdown. Gonzaga won by 26 points. And Gonzaga have won 10 West Coast Conference championships out of the last 7. 10 out of 7. 10 out of the last 11. And it's not like St. Mary's was, cold going into that game. They had actually won, I looked this up, 17 out of their last 19 games. St. Mary's had won before that Gonzaga, and Gonzaga just absolutely dominated them. So props to Gonzaga. They didn't have their normal dominant regular season, but I still think they're a valid threat to make some noise in the tournament.
And let me ask you this question, guys. Are we sleeping on Gonzaga because they're only a 3 seed this year? I feel like whenever they met expectations, and Ben, feel free to chime in, and we'll throw it back to you, Ben. I feel like they're kind of falling under the radar here a little bit, and that's actually a good thing.
I was going to say that's probably good for them. They don't have the pressure of being a 1 seed.
Mm-hmm.
I see it the way it is, though, is that no matter what, if you're a 1 through 3 seed, that can surprise anybody. I mean, UMBC beat Virginia a couple of years ago, which was one of the best upsets, I think, that we've seen in history. And, I mean, Duke, no offense. I mean, I know you're a Duke fan. I'm an Ohio State fan. I'm not even in the bracket right now.
Well,
but
football, I'm right there with you.
Duke. See? I understand. It's one way or another. It's flipped one way. It's like Daniel Jones. I never think of him as a great quarterback just because he's a Duke product and not a football school. That's just the way I think. But, I mean, honestly, though, it's just Duke ended up getting upset as a 2 seed like a couple years ago as well. And it just doesn't matter where your seeding is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, that was with was that with CJ McCollum on that Lehigh team? If I 2015.
McCollum. Yep. Over 30 points in that game too. Yep.
Yeah. Look out, but guys, and then we're going to transition to you here, Vince. Like, all I'm going to say is that Alabama versus Texas A&M game was a little bit lopsided, but Texas A&M, I think it's a team that still is going to be very dangerous and a team that you don't really want to mess with. But boy, Alabama, guys, I mean, I'm a really big fan of them, and I think that Miller is probably the best prospect out, probably the best player in college basketball, in my opinion.
Realize if Texas gets past Colgate and Texas A&M gets past an up-and-coming playing basketball at the right time, Penn State, look who meets each other in the next round. That's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, no doubt. And Peyton, some of your high-level thoughts, sir.
I mean, honestly, it's like Marissa said, it's absolutely the best time of year. I mean, unfortunately, I still have time, and I'm waiting last second to fill out my bracket, but I'm at least filling out 1 or 2 brackets just because 'tis the season. It's all about March Madness. You could see it any way whatsoever on any channel throughout the day, 12 to 10 o'clock at night. and it's the best college basketball too. Because we were just hitting on it on the We Like Sports podcast. I believe yesterday we were talking about it. Now with March Madness, it's your prospects that you never really heard of, like a Taco Fall before, ends up showing out with UCF, and you want to see him play in the NBA then because he's kind of a sensation. He's just a tall dude. He ended up hitting a couple threes that game. You had Florida Gulf Coast that was a nobody that ended up making it to the Final Four. Iowa State. Like, you have so many just random teams that it doesn't – the perfect bracket scenario, there's a reason why it only happened to one time and one time only. I don't see it happening again.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's a team. Florida Atlantic. They went 31-3. I mean, they won 31 games this year. I mean, again, you could talk about Gary. We could sit here and talk about the conference that they're playing in, but 31-3 still 31-3, no matter how you spin it. Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I think that's why, like, when doing my bracket this year, I really had to stop and look at, I'm like, this is no longer the game of the name brands. Like, yes, last year we got a name brand final and everything in Kansas and North Carolina, but like, there are more teams in this tournament that can go on a deeper run than I think than we've ever seen. And it's going to be fun. I'm just looking over the bracket now. Like, I did my bracket, and I know Houston looked a little vulnerable in their conference championship, but I think the allure of playing a home game for a national championship and kind of making up for the ghosts of 1983 and losing to North Carolina State, like that moment is there for them for the taking. Now, will they choke under pressure? Who knows? I actually was in one of my brackets. I do have them listed as my champion. I'm not. This is one of the few years I'm really not sure of my bracket, but I look at them. Like, when Duke is a 5 seed. Like, this is the year of the crapshoot. Like, and that's not me really shouting out Duke. I'm just saying that. You have a team like that. You have Duke as a 5 seed. You have Miami as a 5 seed. Like, there are teams here that you look at and you go, Like, there are a lot of upsets that could be had.
All I'm going to say is,
I'm not naming names, but pointing at them.
All I'm saying is that, and the last thing I will say is that, why do you have a conference champion at a 5 seed, and you have Tennessee at a 4 with fewer wins and more losses and not even a conference champion? That's all I'm going to say, and that's the last thing I will say. I promise. But I'm just saying. That is some bull. I'm just saying. Like, how are you going to win 26 games?
Don't go too far into that. I got that into our third segment. Okay, I got you covered. I got you covered in the third segment. All right, I got you there, baby.
I got you. But Gary, any other thoughts before we transition to Ben and Pac-12?
Yes, I apologize for triggering you, Jeff.
It's okay. I'm just saying. I'm triggered. I'm very triggered. Just like when the Broncos traded Von Miller, I was triggered. Anyway, but Ben.
All right. Back to the conference championship. I want to talk about the Pac-12 because
it's funny.
If you're on the East Coast, you probably did not see this game, considering it started at about 11 o'clock. But the Pac-12, Arizona and UCLA. First off, before I even talk about the game, they're both 2 seeds, and their record combined is 57-11. I don't know. That's pretty good. It's pretty good. But to the game itself, there was never a double-digit lead. The biggest lead Arizona had was 4 points. Biggest lead UCLA Bruins had was 9 points. And this was crazy. The last 6.5 minutes of the game, the biggest lead was 2 points. Literally the last 6.5 minutes, it was a 1-possession game the entire time. So, like, that was an incredible game. Arizona ended up pulling it out. They hit a 3 in the last 30 seconds to take the lead, and they won 61-59. But had to give some love to, and I think that both teams are real threats to make the Final Four. But that was an incredible game.
all I'm going to say is the two UCLA is not the same team because they had two key losses, and I don't remember their names, but it was very evident that they missed those two guys. I don't remember their names, but they're really only running on a 7-player, kind of 6.5-man rotation. Their main guard, whose name I cannot remember, is literally playing 38 minutes a game. So I think that they're just going to run out of gas. But go ahead, Peyton, Marissa, any other thoughts?
I mean, with the Pac-12, it's always interesting basketball, and especially when it comes to tournament time, too, whether it's UCLA or Arizona. Those, as we were talking about our brackets earlier on, those are always teams that I always end up feeling like those are not necessarily surprises, but those are the teams I take deep into my bracket just because they're always talented. They always end up recruiting really well. And no matter what, during these conference championships, it seems like every year it's always UCLA and Arizona consistently, and it's always competitive ball. It's not a surprise that game ends up being a one-possession game back and forth for half the second half.
Yeah, no doubt. And Marissa, I just have to ask, like, this Houston-Memphis game, did you see that?
The Houston-Memphis game, yeah, I did.
Yeah,
I was really surprised how lopsided that was, even though that Houston made a run in the second half towards the halfway point before the second half was done with. But where was Memphis like that all season long? Like, they played with a confidence that I didn't see the couple of games that that were really close games that they lost to. But man, Houston looked vulnerable in that game.
Yeah,
I think that loss will end up being a good thing for them, though.
Mm-hmm.
Houston, that is, gives the coach something to drive home, gives them extra motivation. Go ahead, Marissa.
No worries. I'm looking forward to people sleep on the first four, but there's an interesting matchup that's coming tomorrow in the first four. You got two guys that won it as players, the national championship. You have Bobby Hurley and you have Steve Alford. Steve Alford, the head coach of Nevada, and Bobby Hurley, the head coach of Arizona State. Bobby Hurley is used to the first four. Like, he's one first four away from just naming, this is the Bobby Hurley first four. Welcome. I mean, he did it with a team from a Buffalo team before he went and took this job here at Arizona State. Arizona State, I believe this is their second or third time in the first four. So that's going to be an interesting matchup. And then with Gary over there in his Iona Gales, the Rick Pitino's, versus the other Hurley brother, Dan Hurley, that's going to be an interesting matchup. You got two teams that are going to be duking it out literally in cold temperatures. Hopefully that they don't get snowed in, because it's supposed to be a lot of snow happening when they do take the court. But that's going to be a good game that I got my eye on as well. And don't be surprised. And I have it, and I said what I'm going to say what I say. Don't be surprised if we see College of Charleston making a run, and all of a sudden they just happen to show up at the right time, and they find themselves in the Sweet 16.
Hey, I'm not surprised. Like, here's my thing with college basketball. It's like the Blue Bloods are not as much Blue Bloods because they run with just a consistent flow of freshmen. Mm-hmm. A lot of these teams have juniors and seniors, 6-year seniors. You got to think about the extra year because of COVID. So a lot of these teams are run out dudes that are 23, 24, upwards of 25. The starting point guard for Virginia is 23 years old, born in 2000. Mm-hmm. Just saying, that extra COVID year, there's a lot of players. I mean, you got 18-year-olds going up against 22, 23-year-old grown men. I'm just saying, that makes a difference. I think College of Charleston, they have like maybe 1 or 2 fifth-year seniors on that team. I can't remember. Mm-hmm. But I'm just saying, that experience factor is going to make a difference, guys. So
I agree.
Yeah. So let's just kind of keep this going here because we got these snubs and Peyton, like, I'm going to say this, and, Ben, we talked about it over the week. I have a little gripe at first, and I was like, why didn't Clemson make the tournament when they finished third in the ACC?
I'm glad you went there because I'm not going to interrupt, but I'm glad you went there.
But all I'm going to say is, okay, they're 4-4 in the quad one record, but we'll talk about that specifically and articulate that later and why that's significant. But they had a loss to Louisville, who was 4-28. Mm-hmm. Now, I get that's a bad loss, but you're still third in the ACC, and you have a 4-4 in the quad one record. But Peyton, I feel like you got some thoughts, and then I'll throw it to you.
You want me to go?
Yeah, go for it.
I mean, overall, I'm still just thinking about the fact that, like you were saying, with the way that the basketball has been, how much COVID affected with that, you're going to end up having that advantage from grown men and younger kids. Like, you do have the speed, you do have a little bit of advantage from the youth, but at the same time, you end up having a stronger, not necessarily grown man, but you have a bigger man that's more developed just because of COVID. And I mean, that's going to end up giving it an unfair advantage to some teams at times because intensity ramps up around March. That always tends to be the thing, but you end up adding a couple of years afterwards too. And if you don't end up having too many fifth, 6th-year seniors, I think that could be costly for a lot of teams during this tournament, honestly.
Yeah, and Ben, but what I still think, and I'm just going to touch on Houston real quick. Houston had last season, what still made it more impressive, and I think Marissa, I think you'll like this. They started 4 6-year seniors last year. They're all gone, and they did even better this year, going 31-3. I just find that's just a very interesting stat. I think they had 4. Don't quote me specifically, but Ben, your thoughts? Then Marissa.
So actually, when you talk about Clemson, I'm like, wait a second. Let me just look at Clemson versus Pittsburgh because their records are very similar. And I'm like, let me just do a quick comparison. And I didn't look at necessarily schedules, but so Clemson and Pittsburgh both tied with Duke in the regular season ACC, 14-6 in the ACC. And their overall record, 23-10 for Clemson, 22-11 for Pittsburgh. But here's the difference, and I think where Pittsburgh is in as an 11 seed, and I think they have to play in the play-in. They actually might be playing tonight, I think. But Pittsburgh is in, Clemson's out. And here's kind of the easiest way that I thought of it is the last 11 games for Clemson, they were 5-6. And on the flip side, Pittsburgh, the final 13 games, so almost the same sample size, but final 13 games, they were 9-4. So then I'm like, well, it kind of makes sense. You have a similar record, but you've started to play a lot better. And Clemson, they were 18-4, just to put that out there. They're 18-4, and they finished 23-10. That's not, I can see why they were left out. I mean, there's an argument that they could have been in, but I just did a simple comparison between the two teams. That's all I did.
Marissa, potato, because if you look at that, then Tennessee, you look at what they've done, I don't think they should have made it. But this quad one win, before I toss it to you, Marissa, because we're wondering why this played a little bit significance. And quad one, they have it in 4 categories, and then I'll toss it to you, Marissa, and then Gary. A quad one has 3 qualities: a win at home against a team ranked 1 through 30, or a win at a neutral venue against a team in the top 5, or in the top 50, or an away win against a team in the top 75. I think that is what's been missing in college basketball for a very, very, very long time. But when you look at Clemson, they're 4-4 with a quad one record. I'm a big data guy. I work in Lean Six Sigma. I think those things are important. But Marissa, I just want to ask you, and then Gary, what are your thoughts on the whole quad thing? And then what are some of your just overall, just high-level thoughts as far as snubs and teams, et cetera. But I just want y'all's opinion on the whole quad situation, and then give us some team snub-wise.
I'll give it a snub in a second. But go ahead, Peyton. Go ahead with your thought.
I'm sorry, Peyton. Go ahead.
So what I was thinking of too is, as Ben was mentioning with Clemson and how their record flipped drastically in that second part of the season, that obviously numbers changed throughout, but you could end up almost looking at it like from Ohio State's perspective, which is mind-blowing. And I'm sure there's people out there that make the argument just because there are sports fans that just have nothing else better to do besides make the argument. But I'm not one of those homers that end up doing that. But Ohio State made a really good run in the Big Ten tournament. They didn't see anybody making it as far as they did because in the regular season, they weren't good. They were really bad. They were losing to bad teams, and they weren't good. They weren't successful early on. I mean, they had some good spurts, but midway through the season, they weren't that good. But I'm sure people out there are arguing over the fact that you could end up saying, hey, Ohio State could have made the tournament. It's odd that they're not in just because of recent memory. Every sports fan, it's always the theory of what have you done for me lately? And Ohio State just did the most improving thing throughout the season, and that's the best memory that you have. So sports fans, Ohio State fans are probably wondering, hey, they're not there, and they should be, but it's just because they played and performed way too late. And it's just the mind-blowing part about sports and basketball. I mean, college,
Mhm.
you could swing your season one way or another regardless. But Marissa, sorry for interrupting.
No, I was gonna. You said everything that I was gonna say, because you look at the tournament and Ohio State. I really thought that they were gonna make it. I thought they were gonna pretty much take this tournament the way that they were playing. And I got a lot of Ohio State fans. I lived in Ohio for 4 years. Pretty much, I'm looking on social media, and basically it was like copy and paste. It was like, where was this at during the whole entire season? Where was the intensity? Where was the defense? Where was the shooting? Where was the the whole effort of pretty much the trying process? And I asked that also about Michigan. I mean, still, it just burns a state through a hole into my beautiful sports soul on how, in the name of almighty Wilson basketball or Spalding basketball and such, did we lose to Central Michigan? I mean, still, but and then I watched them tonight play against Toledo. We were down 9-2, and then all of a sudden they're like, played like how they were in the beginning of the season. I'm like, oh my God, you just don't know which team is going to absolutely show up. And so when I look at these, look at all of these teams that are here, I look at Michigan State and a USC that literally, if they both went and looked in the mirror, and they would both see each other because of the similarities are so. I mean, they're so the same. This is one of those teams, both of them. There's going to be one of these games that goes deep into, I believe they have a deep nighttime game is what theirs is. But they're going to, I mean, it wouldn't shock me if they go into overtime, because the ball handling, we don't know which team is going to show up. Either it's going to be the Michigan State that played very well against Purdue, or it's going to be the Michigan State that surprisingly got the brakes beat off of them by Ohio State in the tournament. We don't know which one it's going to be. So it's a mixed bag. But everything that you said, Peyton, is just spot on.
And and folks, this is why Marissa's on the show, because I will forgive the fact, Gary, that she's a Michigan fan and I'm an Ohio State fan for college football. But you got to love the passion. You got to love it. And happy birthday again, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I mean, this is a great gift right here. Chopping it up with you gentlemen on sports. So this is really good.
Doubt. But Mr. Iona himself, sorry you're about to lose a coach there, and he's about to go to St. John's. But take it away, Gary. You're on mute.
If he can give us just one NCAA win and not have it taken back for any NCAA violations, I think we'd be happy. And you look at Connecticut, and I'm sorry, like, Connecticut's pretty vulnerable in my opinion. I don't see them as that of all the teams that could be upset this tomorrow and Friday, like, they're probably number one or number two on my list, and not because I have any vested interest in Iona. It's just I don't trust Connecticut. They don't strike fear in anybody's hearts. They're not they're good, but I'm sorry, like they weren't going to go far even if they do beat Iona. But I digress. Going back to the snubs, I look at Vanderbilt. You think about the fact that they beat Kentucky, they beat Mississippi State, they beat Tennessee, all great teams that are in the tournament right now. I know, the losses to Grambling and Southern Miss were pretty ugly, but they were playing poor in December, but they got hot as the season ended, and I think they were a bit of a shock that they didn't get in. I think Rutgers as well, but I think Rutgers is just more of, I guess they're kind of a byproduct of their inconsistent play. They lost to Minnesota, who was like the worst team in the Big Ten by a country mile, and you can't really, unfortunately, you can't counter that with the win at Purdue. Like that was too bad of a loss. So I think they kind of gave my surprise, like it kind of gave my big prediction that Iona is going to beat Connecticut, and I think of those two, I think Vandy's probably the bigger snub.
And and that's real. And I'm just gonna say one more team. I'm gonna say Rutgers, just because Big Ten team that allowed the fewest points in the Big Ten. But again, when you lose 6 of your last 8 regular season wins,
that Minnesota loss is brutal. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you lost to Michigan, Nebraska, Illinois. Those are some pretty bad losses as well. But I'm a big Rutgers fan. I got a lot of fans from Jersey, and I'm sure they're like, "Well, what about Rutgers?" Gotta give him a little bit of a shout out. But Ben, I'm sure you have another snub, and then Peyton, I'm kind of curious some of your other thoughts as far as some other snubs. But go ahead, Ben.
So I'm going to expand upon your point. It's not a snub, but we're only looking at two teams here. But let's go with it.
He's
Tennessee
got
is
the
a
notes.
Hey, man, I got you, man. I told you I got you. Tennessee is a 4 seed. Duke is a 5 seed. Here we go. Overall record, Tennessee 23 and hey, I haven't even said anything yet. Come on now. Let me at least I'm
Well,
trying
you
to
got the
back you up,
notepad.
man.
But
I'm
you
trying to
got the
back you up,
notepad.
man.
But you
Get
put
it,
the
Ben.
notepad to the side.
All
Get
right.
it, Ben.
Anyways,
Go ahead, buddy. Go ahead.
Tennessee's
Go ahead.
23 and 10 overall. Duke is 26 and 8. Okay. Last 12 games, Tennessee's 5 and 7. Duke is 12 and 2 in the last 14 games. That's it. There's your argument.
Okay. So what are you saying?
I'm saying that Duke, there's no world in which Tennessee should be a 4 seed and Duke a 5.
Thank you. They should be a top 3. How do you win the ACC? You beat Virginia and Miami, and you are a 5 seed. It's collusion. There, I said it. I said what I said. But
Watch the
Peyton,
Raging Cajuns all of a sudden show up and
Oh,
upset
my
Tennessee.
gosh.
Watch.
yes, and then we will switch it up. We will switch it up in just one more second. But Peyton, Marissa, any other high level thoughts? 30 seconds each. Peyton, go. Then Marissa, and then we'll move on to the NFL.
I mean, honestly, with the bracket, like when Selection Sunday came out, I don't like the way that the selection committee ended up doing it, just because you ended up having that Purdue game. You already knew which way they were ranked, and that was a very red flag on the committee with that. Wasn't a fan of that. I'm really looking forward to watching Colgate play, just because they're an unexpected team and they have nothing to lose. And I forgot the name of the school that's playing against Virginia, but like there's been scientific studies and stats that they're betting on them to win, and something ridiculous. And I'm not gonna say I'm like a nerd, but I guess with sports I'm a sports nerd. So like I'll take statistics and I'll take numbers and take them in the bracket. Like once I fill out my bracket, that's one of the things I'm taking, just because Virginia's lost in the first round before. They're not a stranger to it.
Yeah.
Do not be surprised that Virginia will lose in the first round against Furman. Furman is a hot shooting hand from the 3. They love to post in the paint. They love to take the risk. They know that they are capable of their shooting. If their shooting is how I've seen it in a couple of games, especially in their tournament, if it stays hot, I'm going to say this about Virginia. And Virginia fans, I'm sorry to say it, but basically you are the luckiest 25-7 team I have seen all season long. There is thank you. There is no inside depth. They kind of remind me of USC and Michigan State. You don't know which Virginia team is going to show up. Either they're going to go on this incredible 4-game run or they're going to drop 3. Michael Clark, as talented as he is, Michael Clark is spotty at best as point. And I'm glad that he came back for his senior year to have that leadership. He does amazing leadership on the floor. But expect Furman to give this team problems. Furman reminds me, and Peyton just said it, they remind me of a university of, Maryland, Baltimore County, the one that upset them 2 years ago. And then Virginia, went on to redeem themselves and win the national championship. Furman reminds me of that team. So,
and it's crazy. My high school, Catonsville High School, Baltimore, Maryland, shout out, is literally right around the corner from the UMBC. I grew up in the same neighborhood as UMBC. I went to summer camp at UMBC, and I'm like, out of all the schools, UMBC did it. We partied, man. We partied hard, man. That was a good time.
I'm a big fan of that school.
Oh man, it's UMBC. They're a school of like 4,000 students, but hey, it is what it is. But all I'm going to say is Virginia, they're when I'm talking about Marissa, when I'm talking about a team that is about rhythm, if their rhythm is thrown off, they don't know what to do. And you saw that game in North Carolina. When they started pressing them, they almost lost that game.
Yeah.
So you throw their rhythm off.
Jeff, they can't score. They didn't even. They averaged 67 points per game. 67.
But St. Peter's couldn't score either, and they made it to the Elite Eight, and everybody burned their bracket.
So I'm going to say,
Live by the three, die by the three. I agree with it. But if Furman gets hot, they're going to give Virginia problems. If Virginia gets into foul trouble and goes stone cold as the North Pole, again, Virginia will be on the wrong side of history for the second time in the last 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm just going to – no, it's all good. All I'm going to say is I think it might be time to expand the teams to 70 teams. Do you think that just 5 seconds each person? Yes or no? 2 weeks in the field. No.
Just let everybody in the damn tournament.
You get in. If you don't, you go to the NIT, otherwise known as the not interesting tournament. There you go.
Okay. North Carolina said no because their season was trash. So anyway,
no, too.
That's
just
like the
that's the playing game.
Yeah.
It's all good. It's all good. So and speaking of North Carolina, Carolina just did a trade, y'all. They just traded the first overall pick. Perfect transition. Ben, I hope you forgive me. Like we go back to 2010.
We're good, man. We're good.
We good,
Don't
man.
worry.
We good.
We beat you in the Final Four last year. It's all good.
That's great. What have you done for me lately, Sunshine? But that's okay. You got that.
Can we talk NFL? Let's go here. Let's go.
Enter those drums.
Let's go. You ready? Yeah, let's go. So anyway. Oh man. So
he's a Duke fan. I'm a Carolina fan, so he's
it's all good.
He's enjoying the moment right now.
Well, it's just like a Steelers and a Browns fan. I got bragging rights forever, and then guess what happened? I'm from Cleveland. I'm a Steelers fan, and you know what happened is in 2020, the Browns and Baker Mayfield beat Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers. And boy, did I end up hearing it, and my phone was blowing up, and it was not a good time, and I don't want to remember that. So I understand where you guys are coming from.
Yeah, man. So listen, I'm from Baltimore originally, but I'm a Broncos fan. But I hate the Steelers. But it's all good. It's all good. Tim Tebow.
I'm not a fan of you guys because of Tim Tebow. Yeah.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So it's all good. So Marissa, and then I'll throw it to you, Gary. Carolina Bears trade, first overall pick. I definitely was curious about your thoughts on this one because, man, it's just what are your thoughts on this trade? What are your thoughts on this trade? Marissa?
What in the world did they give everything for? They literally gave up almost like pretty much the next several years of picks. And I hope that it is beneficial for them. But let me see what they gave up the number 1 pick this year. And then they gave up the number 9th pick, the number 61st pick, the 2024 first round pick, and a 2025 second round pick, and wide receiver DJ Moore. Gary, go ahead. Because I'm still scratching my head for that one.
Chicago made out like a bandit. Like, let's just be very clear. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest, I was a little disappointed. I wanted to see Chicago have the first pick. Apparently, it was 1947 or 46 was the last time that they had the number 1 overall pick in the draft. I would have loved to have seen that history because in Carolina they've had the number 1 pick before. So, whatever. But
so did Cleveland, but you saw how that happened.
Yes, yeah, about that. A lot of great tragedies. And speaking of. I'm looking at this draft class. I'm looking at them trusting C.J. Stroud. I'm like, all right, he's good, but and, and Jeff.
Careful now.
No, he's good. But what is Carolina going to do to help him?
That part.
That's
okay.
That part.
Stroud as a quarterback. I'm knocking the fact that they're not going to be able to protect him, and then they're going to be in the exact same position they've been in since Cam Newton in his peak. And when he decided not to take that dive in the Super Bowl and then it just went left after that point, can't stand his ass. He cost me money. Sorry. He cost me a couple $100 that day.
Let it out. We're family here. Go ahead.
It's all good.
This is therapy.
Yeah.
It's a safe space.
No. Can't stand how he dresses. No, all right, never mind.
What did
he do to you?
He cost me money.
Cam Newton's cats are ugly, and he got a big forehead. There, I said it.
Thank you, Jeff.
You got a big forehead.
I just feel like I just fear for Carolina, like not for Carolina, but whoever they draft, like what are they? You're gonna now take them, but now you've given up all your picks, and what are you gonna do now?
So here's my thing, and I'll toss it to you guys. I'm not sure. Like even at the number 9 pick, I still think they could have gotten Levitz from Kentucky, and I still think they would have been fine because I don't think any of these quarterbacks are sure thing bets. You only make that trade if it was like a rated by like an Andy Dalton or like a Trevor Lawrence. I love me some CJ Stroud because he made the right choice in going to Ohio State and not Michigan. No disrespect, Marissa, but hear me.
0-2, but go ahead.
Hey, look, it's all good.
Do I have to bring up 20 years of Michigan versus Ohio State before recently?
Woo! It's all good, Marissa. It's all good. It's all
Ryan
good.
Day. Who's
it's all
your
good.
daddy?
All I'm just gonna say is that there's a very, very, very big risk
I love it
by
here.
Carolina. But I really think if they had stayed at 9, they could have gotten Anthony Richardson, your favorite player, Ben. They could have gotten Richardson. I mean, DJ Moore is 25 years old and has had 3 1,000-yard seasons with terrible quarterback play. Like,
by the way,
they
you want
need to do that.
want the quarterbacks he's had? Kyle
Okay,
Allen,
bring over the notes.
Go ahead.
Kyle Allen, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, PJ Walker, Teddy Bridgewater.
Lord Jesus.
XFL star PJ Walker.
That's his quarterbacks that he has played with thus far.
And I think Levitz
Sounds
is
great.
probably the better prospect out of all of them. I'm just saying it. I think that dude, if he can get his accurate, they talk about his accuracy, but they talked about Josh Allen. His last year at Wyoming, he only competed how many percent? What was his percentage, Ben?
56.
Okay, so don't sit there and talk about accuracy. Accuracy can be improved. And Levitz, I think it's a more sure thing in my opinion. But Gary, did you have anything else? We'll keep it moving. Ben, you had your notes, but I just want to make sure everyone's getting some fair love. Peyton, thoughts? Go ahead, Gary. Go ahead, Gary.
Oh, just real quick, I was going to say, I feel bad.
Peyton, go ahead.
I feel bad for your DJ Moore just because he misses the opportunity to play with the Red Rifle, as now the Panthers have Andy Dalton. It's like, oh, that could have been fun.
Man.
He said that could have been fun.
That could have been less money you lost. That's probably what you're thinking right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, as for me with the trade, I mean, I like the fact the Bears getting DJ Moore. I think that's excellent for Justin Fields. That's exactly what I forgot who ended up doing that this past year. I think it was what team ended up doing that? They got a big wide receiver during the draft, and it helped out at quarterback. It was Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars. They ended up making just trades, and you ended up improving. And Miami ended up making a huge trade too, and you added Tyreek Hill. And you see what those star wide receivers end up doing, and from there, look at Justin Fields. He was good last year. It's just the Bears weren't. And with DJ Moore, you could end up having 1,000+ wide receiver and receiving yards, and huge for him. But the Panthers, I mean, like Gary was saying, I mean, you absolutely could have picked somebody else later on. Levis, I don't know necessarily if it would have been him. Anthony Richardson, I don't know. Like, the thing is when it comes to NFL draft, like quarterbacks, I'm big on Stroud. I'm big on Bryce Young. It's just because they're big-name quarterbacks. They're big schools, Alabama, Ohio State. They're your typical powerhouses. It's always the guys like I mentioned earlier on, Daniel Jones. Duke isn't a quarterback school. It's not even a football school. North Carolina, I don't see it as a football school. And you end up having, like, look at Trey Lance. North Dakota State you end up having. You have so many different schools. Wyoming with Josh Allen. There's just these schools that don't really make sense. And, like, Kentucky and Will Levis, I'm kind of concerned about that. I don't know if I could trust him. But it's also, he's unproven right now. And you don't know until you end up taking him out there. But you end up taking a risk on these odd quarterbacks. And compared to, like, when I was growing up, you end up having these big-name schools that Cal, USC, Ohio State, Alabama, Michigan. Name that quarterback, name that big school, Texas. Whatever it may be, those are, like, your big teams that you ended up drafting then. And now you end up having Texas A&M for Patrick Mahomes. Wyoming, North Dakota State. Carson Wentz got drafted out of, I think, whatever weird school. It might have been North Dakota State, honestly. Where you end up having that happen over time. It's been a changing of the guard for football when it comes to quarterback. Like, I'm critical of it, but, like, Kentucky and a Florida product. I'm usually taking a Florida product just because that's the better football school in my mind.
Yeah, and the only pushback that I'm going to give with that is because I like to use the Matt Leinart analogy, where Matt Leinart was a Heisman Trophy finalist, or you look at Ken Dorsey when Ken Dorsey literally had just all-American talent all around him. You look at Bryce Young, the man had literally stud receivers both of his years on the outside. What I value more is those quarterbacks who can do more with less, right? Because you look at a lot of these quarterbacks, you look at the top 5 quarterbacks in the league now, the top 5, or the last, you look at Pat Mahomes when he played at Texas Tech. Did he have any All-American wide receivers? Did he? So I think that it's kind of like a catch-22 to me when you look at a lot of these guys coming out and they say the big name schools, but I think that quarterback is a little bit harder to evaluate because of the talent that's around them. And I think that, Ben, you probably want to say something, but I look at dude from Kentucky, and I look at what he was able to do with less, which got him to be in the top 10 originally, and that shows me a little bit more versus a guy like a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud, who literally has had the best receiving core in the country. So their numbers are going to look good. They're going to look good because all they got to do, Matt Leinart, all he had to do was toss the ball up and Mike Williams will catch it. I mean, so it's tough. But Ben, take it away, and then Marissa.
Yeah, I was just going to say on the trade overall, I think it's just a huge win for Chicago. I mean, sure, you give up the number 1 overall pick, but you get still a top 10 pick, number 9. It's second round pick this year, first round 2024, second round in 2025, and DJ Moore. Like, it's just a huge win for me for Chicago. I mean, all that for one pick. Sure, it's the number 1 overall pick, but it was one pick. I mean,
That's a haul.
That. Like, I think it's a huge deal for the Bears. I think it's a big win.
Yeah, I mean, and Marissa, you still have, Justin Fields, who I think is only going to get better. And you look at the receiving core now, with Darren Mooney moving at the number 2 slot. You're looking at a lot of people are not big on Claypool, but I'm big on him as the number 3 receiver. That's a big body.
That is so surprising to me that people are not buying what he's selling. And as a big body, like you said, that is still capable of playing and making plays, people are not buying into that. And I think he's going to surprise a lot of people with the upcoming season. I'm looking forward to football more than ever. I mean, we don't even know what it's going to be and the surprises and the diamonds in the rough that we're going to see in this draft. But already we're seeing all kinds of trades happen. I put in the chat, I just want to hear Ben's thoughts of the Cowboys acquiring Stephon Gilmore. I know we're going to go into that next segment, but a lot of stuff since all 4 of us have been texting each other with, the trade, that big trade that we were talking about, and then all the things that have been happening since the acquisitions and who was released, who got cut, who gave up what. I'm looking forward again to what is going to all the stuff that's still going to happen leading up to the draft.
Yeah. Ben, your thoughts on Stephon Gilmore?
It's a good trade, low risk. He's not the superstar he was 3 years ago, let's say, but still a very good corner. And corner 2 was kind of a weak spot for us last year. So Trayvon Diggs, Stephon Gilmore, and the rookie who played really well this year, Deron Bland. You got a top 3 corners, pretty good. And Dan Quinn still there. So, I mean, he's a big difference maker for that defense. And, they kept Donovan Wilson as well, which was big. Peyton looks like he wants to say something. Go at it, kid.
Yep, I was just about to end up saying something in the chat. You're a Cowboys fan, right? Mm-hmm. I have so many questions. Since the postseason, like that last play against the 49ers, what was McCarthy thinking? Like, I have to know that. Like,
people want to bring up that last play. They're not going to score 80 yards in one play. It doesn't matter the last play.
3 people on the line. You didn't even have 3 people. You had 1 people on the line. Zeke got destroyed and hit by a dump truck.
So Peyton, let me ask you this question.
I need Peyton on the show more.
If Dak did not throw horrible interceptions this year against the 49ers and the previous year against the 49ers, that last play is completely irrelevant. The main reason Dallas lost the last 2 years is because of Dak. They've heard me say it plenty of times. I'm
Man,
not
Philip-
trusting. I'm not trusting Dak to win the Super Bowl.
I'm not
yet.
trusting the play calling either. I mean, Dak, I was so I'm not even a Cowboys fan, but I was frustrated for you. I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry you have to see that. I've seen my fair share of sports disappointments, but seeing that, and maybe I might have had a bet on it. Sports betting in Ohio did become legal, so I think I did have a bet on it, but that was the dumbest play ever, and I was really frustrated with that just from a football
They
standpoint.
lost the game way before the last play of the game. Tell me
all
the last
bad.
time there was an 80-yard touchdown on the last play of the game.
Whenever
ahead,
the
I'm
band
waiting.
came across the
I'm
field.
waiting.
The band, when it came across the
Oh
field.
my God! Once in 100 years. Once in 100 years. Like
Yes.
really? Once in 100 years.
Oh shoot!
I love it. I love it. You know, I really do. I really do.
Oh,
Yes,
shoot.
Ryan,
That one's good. That's good.
I mean, I live in
Guys,
Dallas, so I see the ups and the downs, like the stock market. So we're gonna go to the Super Bowl, we're gonna win the whole thing, and then
Oh,
Lord.
Lord.
My husband is a
People-
diehard Cowboys fan, so I see it all the time.
You know,
Who wears
there's,
the crop top better, your husband or Zeke? Question of the day.
like, you know,
That's
it's
awesome.
not even.
Or is
It's
it
not
Ben?
even.
Ben
It's not
D-Rock
even.
crop top?
No. No.
It's not even the Cowboys players. It's just the fans.
No, it's the
man.
fans.
It's
The
just
reason
the
people
fans.
hate the
It's not
Cowboys
even
is the
the
fans.
team.
95% of Cowboys fans are completely delusional.
You know how those
Like,
NFL,
way
you know
off
those
the
NFL,
rocker.
You know how those NFL alerts show up of when you sign someone? There was an NFL alert free agency. The Cowboys signed no one. Like,
Great signing, by the way. I think I grade that up.
Oh shoot, that was so funny. And I
Oh,
saw
my
that
God.
post too. I fell out.
yes, that was just like,
But don't
And
worry,
it's
we
just
got
Jerry
Stephon
Jones.
Gilmore. Don't worry.
there you go. Like, it's just,
Oh,
oh
man.
my God, we could talk about the Cowboys all day. Again, it's just,
It's
I
pure
really like
comedy.
that question. Yeah,
It's pure
but I will
comedy.
say, Ben is one of the more sane Cowboys fans. I think he's the only sane Cowboys fan. I will say that because you wouldn't even
I'll
know he's
give
a
him that.
Cowboys fan.
Mm.
You won't even know it.
I mean, he's
You
not
would think
wearing a
he's-
cowboy hat, so I'm kind of
Oh,
surprised at first initially.
Oh my God. Oh my God. But guys, let's keep this thing rolling for the sake of time. Jalen Ramsey getting traded. Now, I want to throw a little bit of a curveball out here. And Gary, you there?
Yes, I'm
Oh.
here.
Yes.
I want to toss the ball to you, and then we'll
Okay.
do a little bit of order. We'll do it, Gary, then Peyton, Marissa, then Ben. We'll give Ben a little bit of reprieve here.
Sorry, Ben.
I'm sorry.
You act like I haven't heard anything and everything
Oh,
since 1996. Like, nothing
So,
you
hey,
say is
96
going to be
God.
any difference.
Literally,
I give you
you're getting
credit because you're
everything.
96, baby.
Almost 30 years,
Yeah.
man.
How many
You're
times
literally
Jerry
getting
Jones comes on
everything
the
all
radio?
at once. It's beautiful.
Jerry Jones, he's like, but now they're gonna get that ball down there. But let me
Oh.
stop.
Anyways,
All I'm
Gary,
gonna say
talk
is,
to us
okay,
about
so
Jalen
Jalen
Ramsey.
Hurts. But I'm gonna throw this question out here because
Jalen Ramsey.
Jalen Ramsey. I'm sorry. Thank you, Marissa.
No worries.
What does this tell you more? What does this tell you more about? Does it tell you more about what the Rams are trying to do, or what the Dolphins are trying to do via trade? What does it tell you more of? What is this? What is the storytelling? Feel free to provide any other anecdotal info.
I don't think it necessarily tells me more of one over the other. I think it kind of was like this is the Rams fire sale and the Dolphins going all in because they know that the AFC East is going to be as tough as any division has been in recent memory. Like
Mhm.
you have the incumbent Buffalo, the Jets. The Jets, if they get Aaron Rodgers, obviously is the biggest caveat. You know, you can't count out Bill Belichick. I don't care. Like you just can't count him out until you show like his team is like god awful. Like Cleveland Browns in the mid-90s god awful. Like if you show me that, then yeah, it's time for him to go. But the Dolphins are loading up because they know like you have to strike while the iron's hot. You know you have a quarterback that when he's
What's your
healthy,
concussion?
like when he's healthy, is very good. Obviously,
Okay.
that's a massive caveat for him, but
Mhm.
they're making these moves with the intent of trying to be competitive. Meanwhile, with the Rams, they got their championship. Everybody can leave now. Thanks for your service.
Well, yeah. And even
Straight
to
up.
add to that, though, with the Rams, they're talking about shopping around Matthew Stafford. We ended up writing an article on our website, WeLikeSportsPC.com. Just a little vanity plug right there.
Free plug.
But we ended up talking about that, and they're already shopping or willing to end up trading Matthew Stafford, and he won one Super Bowl, and you ended up having Baker Mayfield, and I'm sure the organization feels that Baker Mayfield might be a better candidate for a starter because Stafford might have Tommy John soon just because his elbow can't keep up. He can't throw the ball the same way since that Super Bowl game. But it
Mhm.
seems like the Rams, they're not necessarily rebuilding, but like after last year, might as well give up and try again. It's just not good. And for the Dolphins, they're stacking up that team. It's so nice right now to see. I'm not even a Dolphins fan, but you could end up respecting that talent. And I mean, regardless, Tom Brady, the rumors, I'm very questionable on that just because I could see him coming out of retirement again. I think it was a day ago last year was when he officially came out of retirement, or was that today?
I don't know, but he ain't coming back.
He ain't coming
I
back.
wouldn't
He
be
shut that
surprised.
down.
He's done. He's
Tom
done.
Brady's not
But
walking
then
through
you
that
ended up
door.
having Rich Eisen reported something along the lines, I want to say, of he ended up saying that they're hearing something different from Tom Brady's camp. So if that's true, and I mean, social media is a very odd tool, so I'm not going to say this is 100% certain just because social media, there's so many different parody accounts. You never know what you might end up getting or who's getting hacked. But regardless, I wouldn't be surprised because Tom Brady's done it once. I don't see him doing it again. And to end up finishing up, though, the Dolphins, and I want to say that's the AFC East with the Bills, the Patriots, the
Mhm.
Jets. If the Jets get Aaron Rodgers, could you imagine how competitive that division is? I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of the AFC, like you were saying, Marissa, earlier on. The landscape of football changed drastically.
Mhm.
And this is even if Aaron Rodgers doesn't go elsewhere.
Rich Eisen
I wanna
saying
say-
that Tom Brady coming out of retirement is like saying that Run Rich Run is going to be an event in the Olympics. It's not going to happen.
And I'm just gonna say, y'all out here in Seattle, and woo, that's a good one. That's spicy. That's spicy. This one is spicy, y'all.
You're
Pull
welcome,
a
Ben.
little bit pepper on that one. Pull a little bit pepper on that one. Woo, this is fun.
boy.
I love it. I love it.
We're having
Y'all,
fun
do not
tonight.
sleep on Seattle. Do not sleep on Seattle. Seattle is
Yes.
coming. They have Seattle is coming, and I'm not saying. I'm telling
They
you,
threw the
like,
bag at Gino.
I'm just. You should have gotten more money than Daniel Jones, but I said what I said. But anyway,
I
he's gonna be
agree.
fine.
I'm agree with that. I agree
I'm
with
gonna
that.
leave that alone. I'm gonna leave
No,
that
you
alone.
should bring that up because he
I
should have
will-
got more paid. He should have
I
got
will-
paid.
Okay, yeah.
I
Let's
will
talk
not, I will
about it.
not offer my opinion on that one.
Oh, because here's the
I
thing.
mean,
Gino had a huge chip in his shoulder and it kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger until he sat behind Russell Wilson. Then Russell Wilson went to the Denver Broncos, got the bag, and we already know, we discussed it many of time how Russell Wilson, that whole entire core and everything got deflated. And we're all going to be curious to see what Sean Payton is going to do with the Denver Broncos. But Gino should have got more pay in his what he was offered. And it's good that he got paid. I feel that he's Daniel Jones getting more than him.
Well, Sean Payton will take away Russell Wilson's office for one. That's what he started with, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Still love my
That the
team.
quarterback ended up
Mhm.
having his own office. Get out of here with that nonsense.
I still love my team, but Marissa, you're just
Sorry,
trying to
I
beat
forgot
our
you were a
It's all
Broncos
good.
fan.
It's all good. It's all good. We're 5-12, so we deserve it.
Oh yeah,
We deserve it.
somehow
We
the
deserve it.
Steelers
But-
finished above 500.
Yeah, I lost my train of thought. But did we have any other high level thoughts on the whole Jalen Ramsey? All I'm going to say is Mr. Concussion's got to stay healthy.
He does.
Let me throw
He
one
does.
more question out.
He does.
Let me throw one more question out there. Do we feel that the Miami Dolphins, and then I'll throw it to one more question before we conclude. Do we feel that the Miami Dolphins, they got Mike White, I think his name is from the Jets, which I don't know
He did.
move. But do we think, like 30 seconds apiece, do we think that Miami is correct in picking up the fifth-year option and going all in on Tua based on all the concussion injuries? Ben, then Marissa, Peyton, and Gary.
Yes.
Risk and reward. Tua is really good. They just got to make sure they protect him in the right there. That offense has to protect him. He is one hit away from something unfortunately scary, and they're going to put that risk in, and they're going to put all the Dolphins' eggs in that semi-cracked basket. So we should see.
Okay,
but
that's fair. Okay.
I mean, with Tua, I hope, and somebody said it when I was talking to them recently about the Dolphins, that if Tua's healthy, he's one of the top quarterbacks in the league, and I full-heartedly believe that too, just because he is good. But it's his health now, and he's way too young. In football, you've seen so many drastic injuries happen throughout football, and it happens at a young age too. So you hope that he's healthy. But I mean, I understand picking up the option, but I think Miami should end up looking elsewhere for a quarterback and a decent quarterback. Because I mean, Mike White's good, but I think you might have to look for a better starter outside of Mike White, just because he had some success with the Jets. I don't think he's going to be a shoo-in to be a starter if Tua gets hurt again, and that if is more and more a probability now.
Okay. Gary?
I mean, I said it before. If you have a healthy Tua, that team is going to be formidable, and they're going to give Buffalo really a run for their money, just based off of that roster, up and down being as good as it gets. I think you're absolutely right. Tua is damaged goods. I pray that, perhaps he can complete a season healthy, or at least be relatively healthy for enough games where it's not a concussion that takes him out. But this is their shot. If he's healthy, then they're going to be a team that you don't want to mess with. If he's not healthy, they'll be what they've been. They'll be exactly what they were last year. But I feel like at that point, whatever quarterback's available on the free agent market, you got to go look at them.
Okay. I mean, that's real. That's real. So let's just throw this a little bit and talk a little bit about the Jets. I saw this question earlier today. I want to pose this out here. And Peyton, I'll throw it to you, then Marissa. Do we feel the Jets are – what's the phrase? Are the Jets sacrificing their franchise future for going all in on Aaron Rodgers?
I think they're doing the same thing exactly what the Browns did. They're paying the price to end up succeeding, and unfortunately, sometimes money and championships changes opinions over everything. Quite frankly, with Aaron Rodgers, I mean, I'm not a big fan of him, but I never was disappointed in the guy. But I think he's becoming the LeBron James of football. I mean, he's always said that he doesn't want to end up having the news and focus on him, but he's on Pat McAfee show tomorrow at 1 for a huge announcement. In the past year, he was questioning on retiring and going back to the Packers. He's becoming a diva, and I mean, he's not even 40 yet. He's a good quarterback. He's an MVP caliber quarterback, but the Jets could be going a step backwards because, okay, cool, you might end up having Aaron Rodgers start and Zach Wilson if he decides to stick around. Yeah, he'll sit behind him and learn something, and maybe that's something like Jordan Love or whatever would end up having anything going on to improve, but there's no guarantee that sitting behind a veteran quarterback, you're going to be successful. And the Jets, they're giving up too much. I mean, they're trading away, they're cutting cap, and Aaron Rodgers could end up changing his mind and saying, hey, you know what? I'm actually retiring, and you guys are out of a quarterback.
Yeah, so I'm glad you clarified because Rodgers has been to 1 championship and LeBron's been to 10. So not exactly the same comparison, but I'm glad you clarified that it was about the attention piece because 1-10 is a little bit different.
I'm not good at math, but I know those numbers don't match up.
But I get what you're saying, though, Peyton. I get what you're saying.
A little bit different.
Here's the thing. If they could somehow – if the Jets are trying to dangle that carrot of the contract that they got their boy from the Green Bay Packers, believe that Alan Lazard of a $44 million deal of a 4-year contract, $22 million of it guaranteed, and just dangle it, say you get reconnected with your guy. I agree with Peyton because the wish list, according to what's on the internet, is that he wants some key players to be on there. Randall Cobb. They already got Alan Lazard, Mercedes Lewis, and Odell Beckham Jr. I don't know how much cap space that the Jets have to make all this happen if all of this, takes precedence. But like Peyton said, tomorrow is supposed to be some kind of announcement that Aaron Rodgers goes on to his buddy's program, Pat McAfee, and makes some kind of announcement, because that's the only spot that any kind of breaking news, and plus Aaron Rodgers has that comfortable relationship with Pat McAfee on the show. So like you said, he could say he's retiring, could say he's going back to the Packers, could say that he's moving on and he's taking his talents, LeBron-like, to the Jets. Just got to wait and see.
Gary, then Ben.
First of all, Randall Cobb's like 76 years old. Why are we still trotting him out here? Like,
because it's the retirement home type squad he wants.
Like, this
Call Jordy Nelson.
I feel. Thank you. Let's get Jordy Nelson out here. Let's get
some Wes Welker
What about
in
the
there
Rodgers
too. Why
tight
not?
end that he had?
Richard Rodgers.
Richard Rodgers, yeah.
Yep.
Like, let's get BJ Raji out of retirement. Like, look, come on. Like, who else?
Just have him
Come on,
dance at the
Donald Driver.
WWE
Come on
Championship
down.
bout.
The Green Bay Jets, I guess, is what we're looking at right now.
Donald
But,
Driver.
oh God, Donald Driver. Yes.
Greg Jennings.
Back bracing walkers, people. Back bracing walkers. Go ahead.
AARP gang, but
Hey, whoa.
you're not there yet. So you got plenty of time. You got plenty of time.
My hairline says otherwise.
I love it.
Oh,
Okay.
Everybody at home, yes, I have hair. Just have not gotten a haircut. So. That's also why I wear hats sometimes. But anyway, yeah, I'm looking at Green Bay. I'm looking at the Jets, and I'm like, you're really about to like do this whole King's ransom for Aaron Rodgers, and I'm like, you're paying all this money for the AFC Championship game, maybe. Because
1 or 2 years.
with this team, not better than Buffalo. They're not better than Cincinnati.
Miami.
They're certainly not better than the Chiefs. Hell, they may not even be better than the Chargers, and that's with Austin Eckler looking for a trade. Like they'll be better and they'll be fun to watch with him. But like, I'm sorry, like if you said 10 years, if you had told me 30-year-old Aaron Rodgers wanted to be a Jet, okay, that's a game changer. At 40, you're gonna get more wins and more butts in the seats, but that's about it. I don't see it. I don't see where they'll win 12. What they'll win? What 11, 12 games? Cool. What does that even mean at this point?
But Ben, not even that though. But are we also forgetting Breece Hall, who like they played drastically differently once when Breece Hall went out, and he's coming off of a major knee injury. And Garrett Wilson, I mean, yeah, Garrett Wilson is phenomenal, but outside of that, I mean, it's not like this offense, Ben, is loaded with just like, oh my God, talent. And Miami, hello, Miami, their receiving core is a lot better than Green Bay's, or no, than the Jets.
Yes. So to Peyton's point, as far as Rodgers being a diva and seeking attention, name me the last player in the NFL. Well, anyways, the fact that he has a wish list to a team that he's not even on, like you're not even on the team, so you shouldn't even be like, it's insane the fact that he is demanding essentially, get me these guys and I'll come. You're not even on that team yet. Like, it's ridiculous the fact that he has a wish list in the first place for a team that he's not even on. I think that's absurd. And so that's number one. Number two, they would be a lot better off making an offer for Lamar Jackson and giving up 2 first-round picks and getting 10 years of Lamar Jackson compared to 2 years of Aaron Rodgers. Just throwing it out there. Lamar Jackson is 25 or 26, and sure, it's 2 first-round picks, but you could have him for 10 years. Compared to Rodgers for maybe he might only play 1 more year. He doesn't make up he doesn't even know what he wants. Rodgers is either he knows what he wants and he just plays us for 3 months, or he literally has no idea what he wants and he changes his mind all the time. So who knows what you're getting? And he hasn't been to a Super Bowl since 2010.
I mean, facts.
Like 2010. We're in 2023.
Yeah, and Peyton, we'll toss it to you, and then Marissa, we'll ask you just one more question. Do we think that, and then we just want to ask one more question. We'll start with you, but then Peyton, you go with your final thoughts. But then the question I really just want to ask is, should they put more of their eggs with Lamar Jackson or Aaron Rodgers? Marissa, you'll start off with that, but Peyton, your final thoughts on the last question.
Okay, so for my final thoughts, honestly, going back to the Aaron Rodgers, and I forgot who mentioned Garrett Wilson, but I mean, honestly, if Aaron Rodgers goes to the Jets, that's who's going to get hurt the most is Garrett Wilson, and he had such a phenomenal rookie year. I mean, him and both Chris Olave from Ohio State, they had great years in their first rookie year. It was phenomenal, but then you end up adding Aaron Rodgers, and he wants the retirement home of wide receivers, of quarterback pass, essentially. I mean, come on, you're going to hurt the guy that's going to be the leader of the team in the future. Him and Breece Hall, I mean, that's ideally what you want to focus around is your youth. And unfortunately, look at Pittsburgh. Kenny Pickett, George Pickens. That's the best combination you could have right now. And it's perfect because they developed chemistry because they're both young and they're rookies and they're in it together and they're understanding that, hey, I'm a rookie, you're a rookie. We're going through this first year initiation, so to speak. And being, hey, I got to end up being stuck with this dinner bill type situation. And you have to end up doing the same thing because that's what rookies deal with. But instead, Garrett Wilson went through his thing and his initiation, so to speak, to Aaron Rodgers have his retirement home wide receiver core of pass that he could end up succeeding with. And then Garrett Wilson becomes a 4 or 5 on the depth chart and then wants to get traded away because he wants playing time to actually be valued instead of not valued, misvalued, so to speak.
Facts.
Spot on. The thing is with these teams, they have to look at, and I agree 100% with you, Peyton, they have to look at the longevity versus the right now. And I put in the comments that blame Brady for the AARP QB status because you got these quarterbacks that are now thinking that they can play as long in the NFL as he did, but they're not built like him. You know what I'm saying? Aaron Rodgers looked like he went through life. I don't care if he went to a darkness camp to come through the light to figure out what he's trying to do or what he's going to announce tomorrow. Like he literally went through life as hard as he has gone through many of girlfriends that has been in the news more so than his career. You see what I'm saying? So I wholeheartedly agree that they need to look at the talent that is out there that has experience and look at a young, already developed quarterback. I thought about this, and I'm so glad I've said it out loud. Why not try a Lamar Jackson and see what you can get for him and build around him? It didn't work out there in Baltimore. Baltimore, all of us on this panel knew that he wasn't going to pay him. That Baltimore wasn't going to get that they weren't going to pay Lamar Jackson, even though that throughout the game when he was having the hot hand and Baltimore was winning, everybody was like, you need to pay the man. And I'm like, they're not going to. They're waiting for the season, even if he takes them to the postseason or if he doesn't, they're going to drop him regardless. And I don't like how that discord and disconnect that happened because we all saw it play out on national television of how pretty much, I believe the Baltimore Ravens literally left Lamar Jackson in the cold. I would like to see a younger quarterback, not an Aaron Rodgers, go to the Jets. And I have a feeling that Aaron Rodgers will return to Green Bay.
Okay.
And he wants to retire as a cheesehead.
That's facts. You know, that kind of sums it up. We're getting a little bit, we're almost getting here to the end, but we'll just go before we get to Gary and his lovely gripes here. Peyton, Marissa, Ben, any other high-level thoughts, any predictions that we think are going to happen free agency before we conclude and finish it off with Gary?
I was just going to say the Jets should definitely be going after Lamar, not Rodgers.
Agreed. Peyton?
Honestly, with free agency-wise, too, I'd be really intrigued by it just because it's already been rumored. They've been at the tryouts. It'd be interesting if the Browns and Odell Beckham Jr. end up having a reunion. It was a bad breakup. I said yesterday on our podcast, the We Like Sports podcast, that Odell Beckham and Baker Mayfield, they didn't have a good relationship at all. That's why he was out of Cleveland, and it didn't end the way he wanted to. And the fact that he's willing to come back, I think it's going to take Cleveland fans, actually, if that's even a possibility, a second to end up accepting again, just because it's the same treatment LeBron said again. Like, it sucks to compare it twice now with him, but it's the breakup analogy with LeBron here, that he left the city once and now he wants to come back. Now Odell Beckham Jr. wants to do the same thing because his quarterback, his significant other at the time, so to speak, didn't treat him right. So now he wants to try with his new guy, which would be Deshaun Watson. So weird analogy,
Okay,
but it works.
thanks. Hey, it's facts. Marissa, any kind of final thoughts before we give it to Gary?
Well, yeah, unfortunately, I had breaking news come through, and I'm devastated at the same time. I saw that the Lions did sign former wide receiver David Montgomery, which means that they are going to release my favorite running back, Jamal Williams. He will be released from the Lions within 24 to 48 hours after the signing of former Bears running back David Montgomery. This is coming from Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network. Jamal Williams was a workhorse, and if y'all had saw Hard Knocks, and I was so leery about the Lions going on there because Hard Knocks is that show that either teams will make or break seasons. And my team broke through at the right time and eliminated a Green Bay Packers team, swept them during the season, ended up being above 500. But this is now happening. So they signed David Montgomery. Jamal Williams will be released from the Lions. So good luck to him. I hope that whoever picks him up, they're getting a workhorse. Hopefully he will not be in the same conference as my Detroit Lions.
Okay. Hey, and Peyton, just because I know you have to bounce, what is your tag, your shout out for the members before you go? Your Instagram, Twitter, or whatever.
So all my plugs, follow me on Twitter individually at Peyton Vince on Twitter. The podcast at We Like Sports PC. Make sure to check us out. Our website as well, WeLikeSportsPC.com. We're looking for writers. If you want to write, feel free to jump in. It's an unpaid opportunity right now, but if you want to end up writing, having a platform, we're willing to do it. And I mean, it's all for fun too. We end up recording our podcast Monday, 7 to 8 o'clock on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all shared throughout that. And then our replay of the podcast is on all Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, so on and so forth with all those podcasting sites at 8 a.m. on Tuesdays. And we're also kind of starting something different too. I think a couple of you might have seen it earlier on, but I'm doing a sports podcast that's softball related because I have a lot of friends with men's slow pitch softball, and we're kind of starting something from an Ohio basis and adding on to the podcast, so to speak. So something new to keep an eye on. And any universal softball players that want to be involved with that too, feel free to end up contacting me one way or another at We Like Sports PC. And guys, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It was fun, and I'm glad I was the MVP guest, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to bring you back on. We'll definitely have to bring you back on the show, no doubt. Hopefully you can stay on. But Marissa, all I'm going to say is with your Lions situation, you better hope DeAndre Swift can stay healthy.
That part.
I don't know. I think that was a mistake.
He's hurt more than Tua is.
Yep.
Yeah. I
was really surprised at that move. I'm really surprised at that move.
I don't know, man. I don't know. DeAndre Swift is a top 5 talent, but he just can't stay healthy. But I digress. We'll see. But Gary, take it away with your gripe. What is your gripe of the week?
As much as I'm tired of Aaron Rodgers, and I am, and as much as I don't care about the Jets, and I don't, this has the potential to be catastrophic for Jets fans because now you allowed Carr to leave or to leave your facility and not have pen to paper. Now he's sitting in New Orleans in a much better situation, I guess, maybe, possibly. Jimmy Garoppolo, you weren't interested in him. Now he's in Las Vegas. So now, let's say Aaron Rodgers goes on McAfee's show tomorrow and says, nope, I'm going back to Green Bay, or no, I'm done, I'm retiring. He doesn't go to the Jets. You're going to now end up having to go back to Ryan Tannehill, Baker Mayfield. Because I know we said, maybe they can go after Lamar Jackson, but if you couldn't pull Aaron Rodgers, I can't trust you to pull Lamar Jackson. Which means there's a real distinct possibility for Jets that you start the 2023 season with Zach Wilson as your starting quarterback. And after all that, and after all this spending and all this wheeling and dealing, you're going to be the same sorry-ass Jets you've been all the time.
Man, tell it like it is. I love that about you, Gary.
I mean, that's facts.
That's facts.
The Jets. I mean, well, we know Aaron Rodgers. Well, we also know that I don't even know. Gary, you finished it off. Peyton, glad to have you on. We'll definitely have to bring you back on. Ben, let's schedule him for some time in May. Let's do it. Reach out to him. Let's get him back in May. Let's do it.
Oh, could we
First
some
Tuesday in
baseball
May. Peyton, we're calling it now. You're coming back the first Tuesday in May. We got it. Book it. Done. Let's get it done. Anyway,
Tell me the
Marissa,
date and I'm
glad to
there.
have you back. Sounds good. Marissa, glad to have you back.
Thank
You know, you're healthy and all that. We'll see what happens in free agency. It's just going to be a lot of crazy stuff. Ben, the Tar Heels fan, Holloway, sir, how you feel? In your face, all up in your face.
How are you gonna feel it? How are you gonna feel when if they don't win? You know,
Yeah.
if they don't win.
Go ahead, Peyton.
Oh, Peyton, what you got?
So I want to just clarify something from like what I understand from like free agency and Aaron Rodgers, just because I think this is the perfect way to end the show. Green Bay didn't want him. They don't want him. So I think like we keep on discussing the fact that what if tomorrow afternoon Aaron Rodgers says he's staying in Green Bay? I don't think he has the choice to stay in Green Bay. I think that's the thing because Jordan Love, they've already said that's their guy. They don't want to deal with Aaron Rodgers. And I think there's going to definitely be some problems in that organization if he did decide to stay there because he's going to either have to end up causing a rift between the Packers and Jordan Love, the Packers and himself if he stays. I just don't think it's going to end pretty. Like, it's not going to be a good situation. And I think that if situation to Green Bay, I think he's just gone. I think if it's not the Jets, I think it's somewhere else. It might be Tennessee even. I've heard rumors there, but it's just something to ponder on until he ends up signing, honestly.
And somebody
You know,
pointed this
I
out,
really-
like if Rodgers, sorry, Jeff, but if Rodgers goes to the Jets, it's literally the exact same thing that the Packers did with Favre.
Yep, exactly.
Same
It's a
exact
carbon
thing.
copy of
Same-
you and I
same
growing
exact
up and
thing.
seeing that.
Mhm.
But the way that we see it, though, the NFL has always given us a bunch of surprises, and there's always a curveball that can happen.
Yeah.
I really wouldn't be surprised if he went to Tennessee. I would not. You look at that team, man. You look at it. You look at that division. Very winnable. Can the Jaguars repeat? They're the Jaguars. That's all I'm going to say. We'll see what happens. But again, Peyton, first Tuesday of May, we're going to have you back on. You can book it. Again, Blue Devils, it's a great day, baby. Gary, good to see you, buddy.
Where's the
Sorry,
Mercer
Jeff, man.
Bears when we need it?
There we go. Let's talk about those Mercer.
Go Iona Gales.
Yes,
Oh,
let's
man.
go.
Go Iona.
Oh, man.
The Rick Pitino's.
You know what? Okay, just one more thing. Biggest,
All right.
we didn't even, hold on. I'm sorry.
We didn't even go
do
Final
our
Four. We should do that real
Okay.
quick. Peyton,
We got-
you got
we got-
5% on your phone. Go. Peyton, go. Final Four.
Final four.
Final four, man. I could see Duke coming out of their side of the bracket. I'm gonna actually. I'll give you the final on each side because I don't remember what the top left and whatever that conference is, and I know one of them on the right side. But I'd say Duke and man, who would be a good threat?
So
Honestly,
you're unprepared for your Final Four picks there, Peyton.
well, yeah, my phone was about to die. You guys kick me out of here. We closed the
It's
show
just
10
four
times for the
teams.
last
That's
24
it.
minutes.
It's just 4 teams. That's it.
Here, Ben, just name your three, and I'll say that's really good, and I agree.
That's awesome.
Clemson, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Duke. How about that?
Okay. Duke. All right, Ben, Final Four.
And Colgate,
Arizona.
top five.
Arizona, Kansas State, Houston, UCLA.
I agree.
Okay, Marissa.
Kansas State? All right. Whew, whatever beverage you got, make sure that it's not tainted. I Out of the South, I have Zona. Out of the East, I'm riding with the Shaka Smarts of Marquette. Out of the Midwest, hook 'em horns, Rodney Terry. They need to drop that interim tag from you and give you a permanent job as a coach. And listen, I'm a Mick Cronin fan. Mick Cronin all the way, UCLA.
Okay. Respect, Gary.
Baylor, Duke, Houston, and UCLA.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I got Alabama, Duke, Texas, Kansas, and I got Alabama winning it all against Kansas. Who's your winner?
I'm gonna go to Houston.
Okay. Marissa?
Zona.
Okay. Hey. All right. Respect. Respect. All right. I know this episode was a little bit longer than expected, but hey, it was fun. I had fun.
That's good.
It was good. A lot of good laughs. A lot of good laughs. So that's a wrap. That's finally a wrap for tonight, folks. We want to thank all of our supporters. Stay tuned until next week. Cheers until next time. Peace and love,
Peace.
and hail.